Panda. Where Lu Yi lived, they had few of the things that people in town had. There was no electricity, no telephones, few roads. Most goods were carried on barges on the canals. The farmers would take their produce to load onto the barges to take it to town markets, where it could be sold. But the barges carried more than corn, honey, wheat, and vegetables. They carried news. Through the bargemen, people in the countryside would learn of what was happening in far-off places. The news would travel in the other direction too. Government officials in the cities would learn what was happening in isolated farm areas, such as where Lu Yi and his family lived. There was another way that the Lu Yi and his neighbors would get news. Sometimes messengers were sent out from the cities with important news. Traveling on foot along the footpaths, they would tack up notices along the way. Here's a picture of someone tacking up a notice. It was in this way that Lu Yi learned the answer to the question that had been on his mind. Why suddenly had that Dowsing Mao, Mr. Po's Dowsing Mao, come down from the mountains? One morning, the sound of hammering was heard. People stopped whatever they were doing. They knew what it meant and flocked to the footpath. Sure enough, a man was hammering a notice on a tree. Lu Yi ran out. Ho Yen, already there, beckoned him over. It's all about Dowsing Mao, his friend whispered. Listen! The messenger was speaking. Up there, he pointed to the mist-shrouded mountains, lives the Dowsing Mao. All over the world, the Dowsing Mao is beloved. But this is the only place in the world where it lives. And now it is in trouble. If we do not help it, there will soon be no more Dowsing Mao in the world. News messengers were always long-winded, maybe because most of their days were spent walking alone on the footpaths. So they enjoyed talking when they had a chance. This one went on and on and on. Though the people were interested, they were also impatient. We know that, they interrupted. Get to the point. Look up there, my friends, the man said, pointing. All eyes looked up toward the mountains, almost expecting to see more Dowsing Mao appear out of the forest. Look carefully. Even from here, you can see what is happening. The bamboo forests are yellow and dry. The bamboo has dried. The Dowsing Mao have nothing to eat up there. That is why they are coming down. They are starving. Mrs. Chen's mother spoke up. I have lived here many, many years. This has never happened before. Why now? Why now? The man took a cloth from his pocket and wiped his forehead. Everyone waited nervously. And here's a picture. The Dowsing Mao. That is so, Mother. It has not happened while you were here. It was clear the man wished to speak to the old woman with respect. But it did happen, he added, before you lived here. The bamboo up there dies every 60 years. Then it takes 2 or 3 years for the new shoots to grow. The Dowsing Mao are having a famine. What does famine mean? A famine means when you don't have enough food and the animals or the people are starving. That is why they are coming down. They are desperate for food. The Chinese people understand famine. The older ones especially murmured, remembering sad times. Mr. Po spoke up in his raspy voice. That may be, but I am a poor man. I cannot afford to feed Dowsing Mao with my honey. He began to describe at great length his battle with the Dowsing Mao until the stranger stopped his flow of words. We do not expect you to. But there is a plan to help the Dowsing Mao to live through this time. We are asking for your help. We know you cannot afford to feed the animals, so the government will supply the food. In the coming weeks, helicopters will drop sweet potatoes and corn. Place this along the high ridge of your fields and grazing land. Starving Dowsing Mao will eat it, but don't approach them. They are starving, desperate animals. Remember, a Dowsing Mao can be fierce. His audience, quiet for so long, all began to speak at once. I don't have time. There are hungry people. Why feed animals? Where's the money coming from? The money to save the dowsing Mao comes from the government of the People's Republic of China. And even more money comes from the United States and other countries. They all care about the dowsing Mao. The dowsing Mao was once the gift of kings. Now there are just a few left in the entire world. If we do not help them, there will soon be no more in the whole world, and never will be ever again. Mister, Ho Yen had gone up to the man. The dowsing Mao lived here long before people, yes? That's right. When the bamboo died before, we were not here. Who fed them then? Not very long ago, said the man. There were bamboo forests where your farms are now. When the mountain of bamboo died, the dowsing Mao came down here, right here. He thumped the earth with his foot. Here they would find different kinds of bamboo growing that had not died. They could stay here until the upper forests were green once again. Now they cannot do that. Ho Yen looked thoughtful. Then this right here, where we live, is a dowsing Mao's land? People have to eat too, Mrs. Chen's mother voice quavered. I am an old woman. I cannot move. My son worked so hard to clear this land. Mother, no one will ever force you off your land here. But for those who wish to move elsewhere, the government will pay for it. Wow, they're going to actually ask the people to move. I was right, thought Lu Yi. The talk about moving does have to do with the dowsing Mao. There is one thing I would like you to do, said the man. Report every dowsing Mao you see. Everyone's head moved slightly. They all looked at Lu Yi, yet nobody said anything, not even Mr. Po. They were waiting for him to do it, to tell about Su Lin. He stood there, his heart pounding. He had for days now managed to find one excuse after another to put off constructing the cage. But now the man would take Su Lin away. His mother squeezed his arm gently. Lu Yi opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The man did not seem to notice any of this. There is to be no shooting of dowsing Mao, he said. His eyes went to Mr. Po. For some time it has been against the law to do that. It is now even more serious of an offense. Then he smiled. But here is the good news. The government will give a reward of 300 yuan to any person who helps save a dowsing Mao. 300! 300! There was a hum of excited talk, even enough to buy a sewing machine. Not enough for a bicycle, maybe an old one. The only one to look glum was Mr. Po. I should have wrestled the beast to the ground, tied him up. I could have done it. Everyone smiled. Mr. Po was a puny fellow. The messenger nodded. It's a good reward. It shows how serious the government is about this matter. He picked up his hammer, his roll of notices, his screwed up paper full of tacks, and got ready to move on. He did not seem to notice how the villagers had suddenly gotten quiet again and were now smiling and staring at Lu Yi. Why did no one say anything? Not even Ho Yen, although Ho Yen looked as though he were about to burst with excitement. The truth was they did not have much trust in the matter to do with the government. It was up to Lu Yi himself to tell the man, and he couldn't do it. His father finally spoke up. We have a dowsing Mao. You have a dowsing Mao? The messenger was astonished. What do you mean, you have one? The crowd surrounded Lu Yi. They all walked towards his house. Ho Yen threw an arm around his friend's shoulder. 300 yuan? What are we going to buy? Lu Yi shook his head. He wasn't even thinking about the reward. All he could think about was Su Lin and the day they found him, how he had carried him down the mountainside, how tiny he was, and how helpless, and now how he was bigger, more furry, the black bands on his back were darker, his little pon ears stood erect, and he could walk very well. Up ahead, Lu Yi's mother and father were explaining to the messenger how everything happened. When they all entered the courtyard, Lu Yi stopped short. Su Lin's basket was there, but it was tipped over, and it was empty. He ran over and looked behind it. He began whistling. Sometimes Su Lin would squeak in answer to his whistle, but now nothing. The gate to the courtyard was open. He could have gone outside. Where would he go? He has never done that before. There's always a first time. He is not here, Lu Yi's father had been looking in the shed where he kept seed, burlap bags, and tools. We'll have to search the area. Lu Yi was on his way out when his mother called out, "Don't worry, come in here, look!" The little dowsing Mao lay against the wall, snuggled against Lu Yi's sleeping mat, entangled and half covered with Lu Yi's jacket. He was snoring peacefully, making little squeaking sounds, his chest moving rhythmically. "Oh," Lu Yi sank to his knees. "Those things have your body smell in them," said his mother. "They make him feel safe." What a mixed-up way to feel. Happy to find Sulin, unhappy that he was about to lose Sulin. The little dowsing Mao opened his eyes. Lu Yi picked him up. "He was all but dead when we found him," said Lu Yi's father. Lu Yi's mother described how her son had been able to get Nim, the goat, to give the baby dowsing Mao his milk. The man reached out for a little dowsing Mao. "You've done a good job." "Ouch!" He looked at his hand, scratched by Sulin's claw. "Tell me, what were you going to do with him?" "Send him to the zoo," said Lu Yi. Lu Yi's father broke in. "When does my son get his reward?" This, too, was an important subject that no one else seemed to be thinking about. "When the animal and my report are delivered." Lu Yi knew it was no disgrace to cry. Still, he turned away. Sulin would be leaving today, right now. At least he himself understood what was happening. Sulin would not. "What will happen to him?" he managed to ask. "In the Wulong Reserve, there is a rescue center for dowsing Mao. They are cared for very well there." Wolong is far. He would never see Sulin again. "This little fellow will be the youngest one there. You have named him?" "Sulin," whispered Lu Yi. "I will tell them. At least that will be one thing familiar for this little one. I will get you a basket so you can carry him," said Lu Yi's mother. "Oh no, I can take him with me today. I have 100 kilometers to travel. I couldn't care for him properly. We will have to make different arrangements." He looked at Lu Yi. "You won't mind taking care of this little fellow for a short time more." Lu Yi grinned. Then the man explained exactly how Sulin would be taken to the Dowsing Mao Rescue Center. As he listened, Lu Yi grinned even more. And that is the end of chapter 5. And tomorrow we will read chapter 6. Bye for now. Mwah. Love you guys.